Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to use oil pastels and paint a little still life. And there is a real-time version of this up in Critique Club right now. I'll put a link in the video description if you want to learn more. I was really inspired by the Color Cube series of color palettes, and I wanted to use them as a reference photo. And these are created by the artist Sarah Renee Clark, and I will link it down below, but it's really cool. They have a digital and a printed version, and it's all these beautiful color palettes with reference photos, and it's actually designed for adult coloring book enthusiasts, but it's awesome for artists as well. Now I'm basing in some yellow ochre and some brown here on my paper, and the paper I'm using is the oil paint paper from Hahnemühle, but honestly I think this is a little too slick for oil pastels, and I would recommend like the Canson XL sand grain or any other sanded paper you might have, or even a traditional pastel paper. I think the slipperiness of the of this primed oil paper is a little bit too slick for these, but you know, we get the job done at the end. It's just I think it would be a lot more enjoyable to do it on a different paper, but you know, you never know until you try. You got to try different materials to see what you like best. I'm using a little bit of Gamsol and a flat brush to spread out my pigment here, and that little thing I have the Gamsol in is actually an ashtray I picked up at a yard sale last summer, and I realized it's perfect for this. It's perfect to hold just a little bit of solvent or medium or something, so that's what I'm going to use this little thing for. And it cleans up really well because it's a glazed ceramic, so I don't think it's valuable, but I like to, I like to use the things I have. I don't like to just have things to have them. And yeah, I just kind of want to get that little bit of a wood grainy feel there, so it looks like these are objects sitting on a table. Had I used a normal pastel paper or a sanded paper, I think I would have been able to overlay more colors, even with the background still kind of wet from the solvent. It just, the slickness definitely was a bit of an issue. Here I'm actually scraping some of the oil pastel off into my little palette there and picking it up with a brush to help opacify it a little bit. I used a more creamy, kind of beige color. And now I'm using this kind of like, I would say it's like a rose brown maybe, to do the saucer that the Tart is on. The fun thing about these cards, because the reference photo is small, that I have to kind of make more bold decisions, and I'm not going to get caught up in the minutia of it so much. So for me, that's kind of nice. I find I spend a lot of time on pictures just trying to make them pretty rather than spending the time to get the bold stuff down and going for a more looser approach. And I really want to do like a I don't know, I want to do more of the quick paintings, I guess, and rather than getting kind of bogged down. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I love when I do a daily painting challenge, but oftentimes I'll end up getting like really into the details and stuff, and then spending a lot more time than I intended to. I really want to improve my speed as far as blocking in and whatnot. So yeah, what are your goals? Let me know what your goals are. And what are your painting resolutions for the new year? Do you have any? I'd love to hear them. Let me know in the comments below. We can inspire each other. I'm using some yellow to do the Tart. So the way that I layer up my objects when I'm working in a media like pastel is I will do the background, and then I kind of like to layer as things are going to overlap the previous thing, if that makes sense. I try to work back to front because that helps me keep my edges clean. So I put the Tart, like the Tart part in before I put the cream and the crust, because the Tart would kind of be sitting in that, and I think the crust and the cream would overlap it a little bit. So that's why I did it that way, if that was at all confusing. Now you want to be careful when you're adding white if you're using especially oil pastels, oil paint, or soft pastels, because the white can be really powerful and really gobble stuff up. You don't have to worry about it so much with acrylics, because acrylics or gouache will dry quickly, so then you can layer over it, although gouache can reactivate. You just got to be real careful with it because it is so opaque and it just kind of gobbles up everything. But it is white icing, so it's okay if it gets a little bit strong. The only color in there would be the shadow, which is kind of a grayish tone, and the ridges on the cream or frosting where it's been hit, I think hit with a blowtorch probably. It looks like it's got a little bit of what's that little, I don't know, I don't make fancy desserts, but it's got that, where they put it on fire and they make the bits dark and crispy. I don't know. I don't know. I keep thinking of like creme brulee or something. I don't know if that's what it's called or not, but I'm just kind of fussing around here with the saucer. I'm putting in the darker shadows, adding in a little bit of crispness and detail to the crust, and I'm just trying not to overdo it. I really love, there's some artists on Instagram that do these still lifes, and they're small, like 6x6 canvases, and they're like an hour or less, and they're just fresh. And you can see the brush strokes. I love seeing brush strokes, even though these are pastels, not really brushes. I love that, seeing the brush stroke. Now, sometimes you go in there, like I said, the white's like really powerful and you get too much white. What you can do is take a palette knife or a cut up piece of credit card and scrape off that pastel. And then you'll be able to go back in with other colors. And I also love to use colored pencils with my oil pastels. I find the Prismacolor ones work pretty well. Some colors work better than others because some colors are a little softer and more pigmented than others. So, just a little trial and error. And I sketched a little raspberry on there, and I scraped out the white frosting with a palette knife, and then I just went in with my pastels. Now, my softest pastels would be the Sennelier. I have a set of 24 of those, and I really like them. And I've been thinking about buying the set of 72 because it's been a really good price lately, but I don't use oil pastels enough to justify that purchase. I've also really enjoyed using the really super duper cheap Pentel pastels. I'm not sure if they're the same quality as they used to be. My set's probably like 10 years old, but I like those for those first layers because they're nice and firm. And I also like any of the pastels that are made by Mungio. They'll say artist soft oil pastels on them, and that's what you want to get, the gallery soft oil pastels, because they're just very creamy and very pigmented and just glide. I also like the Paul Rubens pastels. Most colors are really nice and soft and creamy. There are some greens that are a little bit streaky and sticky, but overall the colors are mostly pretty good. I thought the Artix pastels were pretty good. The Artix ones, I'm not sure if they're made by Mungio or if they're their own thing or not, but they actually perform really well too. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good affordable brands that you can find out there. Any of those really. The store brands sometimes are good too. So, it doesn't hurt to, have a look and see what's available local to you. And if you can't find anything, there's always online. There's some really awful oil pastels, but those tend to be the ones that are in the art kits, sometimes those can be pretty bad, but even those can be used as sketching mediums for under oil painting. So, I guess it's not all lost. Here you can see me struggling with some greens because greens tend to be a little bit tricky, but those Pentels, those cheap Pentels, man, they held their own. They did a pretty good job. They stick really good to this oil painting paper, which was nice. I did get a little frustrated with the amount of layering I could do on this paper. Originally I was going to use the Canson XL Sand Grain mixed media paper because I really enjoy that for oil pastels and it is so affordable. But I spotted this pad of oil painting paper and I thought I'd give it a try because you never know. I prefer to paint on a canvas panel with oil paints or a stretch canvas. I have done an oil painting on this and it's fine, but it's just not my preference, although that's easy to frame if you want to frame it. So I like to try papers with different mediums just to see if I like them better. You never know, and sometimes it's a paper that's not even recommended for a specific medium and it will end up working really well. So, if you have it already, you might as well try it. You can even cut your papers down into smaller sizes if you want to just do little test swatches and just see how it feels to apply pastel. I think I probably could have told really quickly just by swatching some pastels on this paper that I wasn't going to enjoy it a ton. But that said, I do like the way that the painting came out and, it was pretty fun to paint. Now, you probably noticed I have some tape on my paper and I did that for a couple of reasons. One, to make the aspect ratio more similar to what my reference photo was, but also because I like to have a place to handle the painting, and oil pastels never really truly dry. So they'll always have a little bit of stickiness to it. So I want an area where I can hold it and I can use it to adhere to a mat. Someplace where it's not going to have that greasy oil pastel on it. So that's why I put the tape strips across. And also, when you pull the tape off, you have a nice border. But I didn't do all four sides because I needed that length there. Adding some more highlights to, I think it's mint. I guess it could be basil, but I'm pretty sure it's mint because that's more of the type of herb you would have with this, and they seem to, the leaves seem too flexible to be lemon leaves. So that's why I think that's mint. For darker shadows towards the end, I'm using my Sennelier because they are softer. And in general, you can lay your softer pastels over your harder pastels, and that goes for both oil pastels and soft pastels. And it does look a little bit grainy because this paper has a really strong texture, and I only have a very thin application of media here, so I will end up blending that out with a brush that's got a little bit of solvent on it. I used a colored pencil to reinforce a little bit of wood grain because I thought it was a little bit plain. And I am using a harder white pastel just to blend out the softer pastel that I had highlighting the edge of the rim. That's another thing you can do with those hard Pentel pastels. You can use them to blend out the softer pastels if they look a little grainy. Now, the only downside to the Pentels is that people have said recently that they smell really strongly of petroleum. Mine have no odor, but mine are like 10 years old. So if you have the Pentel pastels, I had the set of 50. They're very affordable. They always have been. If you have those, could you let me know if they smell really strongly, and if they do, did the smell dissipate after you had them for a while? And this would be mainly for ones that have been ordered in the last couple of years. And there I'm just using a filbert there, Golden Taklon filbert. That's a Royal Langnickel Fusion brush. They're excellent for oil painting. Just using that to spread out my shadow a bit so it's not so grainy. And there I added too much, and you can see I actually lifted some of the pastel off of the paper underneath that lemon. So don't add too much solvent because it will just wipe it right off of this surface. And now I'm using some solvent and the end of my white pastel and just picking up some pigment and applying it like an oil paint. So you really have a lot of options with oil pastels. They're a wonderful medium. They're pretty affordable. I just showed you the Canson XL pad there, and that's what I do recommend. They're very affordable and easy to find, and applicable for most ages. They're really a wonderful medium, and I don't know why they don't get any more love than they do on YouTube, because they're really quite special. It's kind of like, it's the simplicity of holding a crayon, and that's an experience we've all had with the ability to create a painting. So oil pastels are great. I highly recommend giving them a try. And oil pastels were my favorite when I was a kid. Whenever my second grade teacher brought out the Craypas, I knew it was going to be an awesome day. So yeah, maybe that'd be a great idea for a gift for your kid for Christmas. And there you can see the nice fresh white border. I'm going to call this done and sign my name. And yeah, there you have it. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see a real-time version of this, you can find it in Critique Club. I'll have a link in the video description. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.